The restaurant was filled with warm laughter, glasses clinking, and the faint melody of a string quartet playing in the background. A grand chandelier shimmered above the long banquet table, where company partners and old friends gathered to celebrate years of success. Ethan sat quietly beside Mia, listening to Simon crack another joke at the far end of the table. He had always been the type to listen more than speak, content to watch and let the world swirl around him. Mia, elegant in her ivory dress, leaned forward with her usual poised smile. Her hand moved gracefully, picking up a small dish of seasoned mushrooms. Without hesitation, she reached across and placed a piece in Ethan's plate. "Noah, you love these, don't you?" The words dropped into the air like a stone into still water. The ripples were immediate. The faint hum of conversation faltered. Chopsticks paused mid-air. For a fraction of a second, the entire room seemed to forget to breathe. Ethan didn't lift his head. He didn't need to. The sting of that single word cut deep, far sharper than the fork he now gripped in his hand. His knuckles whitened as his fingers tightened around the cold metal, pressing harder than necessary, as though holding onto it could steady him against the wave that threatened to crash over him. He wasn't Noah. He never had been Noah, and he never would be Noah. From a few seats down, Noah himself slowly lifted his gaze. Tall, sharp-featured, dressed in a tailored black suit, his presence drew eyes without effort. His expression didn't change much, but in his eyes there was a flash of something: amusement, curiosity, perhaps even triumph. His gaze locked with Mia's across the table. Mia froze, her hand still holding the chopsticks suspended in mid-air. Her polished composure cracked for the briefest of moments. She quickly withdrew her hand, dropping the mushroom back into her own bowl, her smile flickering like a candle in the wind. "They're a little burnt, just right." Her voice faltered before trailing off. Ethan lowered his eyes further, chewing the food already in his mouth with mechanical slowness. He forced himself to remain calm, to betray nothing. He didn't look at her, he didn't look at Noah, he didn't say a word. The silence was unbearable, heavy enough to drown in. For Ethan, it was like sitting at the edge of an ocean, knowing a storm was coming but unable to move. His nails dug into his palm, but the pain felt strangely distant, dulled as though his body refused to register it. Simon finally broke the tension, clapping his hand against the table with a forced laugh. "Why isn't anyone drinking? Come on, bottoms up, no slacking tonight." The others let out quiet, relieved laughter, raising their glasses as if clinging to the distraction. The noise returned, shallow and brittle, but no one had truly forgotten. The name still lingered in the air like smoke that refused to fade. Mia shifted, ladling soup into Ethan's bowl, her smile carefully reconstructed. "Drink something warm," she murmured, pretending nothing had happened. "You didn't dress enough for today's weather." Ethan took the bowl silently, the steam rising to his face, blurring his vision just enough that Mia couldn't see his eyes. He raised it slowly, but the warmth did nothing to thaw the cold in his chest. Across the table, Noah had already looked away, his expression unreadable. But Ethan knew. He could feel the invisible thread that had pulled between them in that moment, the kind of thread that only exists when two hearts once belonged to each other. As the dinner continued, as laughter grew louder to cover the cracks, Ethan sat in silence. His fork rested motionless by his plate. His heart didn't race, his breath didn't quicken. Instead, a strange stillness settled inside him, heavy and undeniable. Because deep down, in that instant, he understood something he had always tried to deny. No matter how many years had passed, no matter what she said, Mia's heart had never truly let go of Noah. The anniversary dinner would be remembered by many for the food, the speeches, the laughter. But for Ethan, it would be remembered for a single mistake. A name whispered in the wrong moment. A slip that revealed the truth. And that truth cut deeper than any knife. Ethan and Mia had grown up 2 houses apart on a quiet tree-lined street where neighbors left their doors unlocked and summer cicadas sang into the night. They met in kindergarten, Mia in a pink dress with pigtails and a scraped knee, Ethan in a hand-me-down hoodie 2 sizes too big. She was crying on the curb after tripping on the slide. He handed her a napkin and sat beside her in silence. She stopped crying. From then on, they were inseparable. At school, Mia would always save a seat for Ethan during lunch. During festivals, they ran the booths together. He was always the quiet cashier while she charmed every passerby with her bright smile and fearless energy. When she twisted her ankle during the field relay in 5th grade, Ethan piggybacked her all the way to the nurse's office, grumbling, "You're too heavy," while she laughed and called him rude. Their families became close too. His mother taught Mia how to bake, her father taught Ethan how to ride a bike. Their parents would joke at dinners, "Are we raising a couple here?" And Mia would giggle, replying without hesitation, "Of course, I'm marrying Ethan when I grow up." In middle school, when a boy pulled at Mia's ponytail and called her names, Ethan punched him without a word. They both got detention. That night, Mia handed him a milk carton and whispered, "You're my favorite person, Ethan." He didn't say anything, he just looked away, face burning red. In high school, they still walked home together, rain or shine, exam week or summer break. Mia would chatter on about teachers, friends, weekend plans, while Ethan nodded quietly, listening, memorizing the rhythm of her voice like a song he never wanted to forget. Sometimes, she'd loop her arm through his without thinking. Sometimes, she'd fall asleep on his shoulder during bus rides. Ethan never told her how his heart pounded each time, how just her leaning her head on him felt like the world stopped spinning. He thought it would always be like that. He thought they had time. But then came college. They both got into the same university, he majored in engineering, she majored in business. Their first few months were the same, lunches in the courtyard, library sessions, late-night takeout on the rooftop. But then one day, everything shifted. She came back from a student council event, her eyes bright in a way he hadn't seen before. "There's someone you should meet," she said. "He's so good at everything, you won't believe it." That was the first time Ethan heard Noah's name. Noah was magnetic, the kind of guy who made professors laugh and girls lean closer when he spoke. President of the debate club, vice president of the student body, already interning at a top firm. Tall, smooth-talking, confident in the way only people who'd always been admired could be. Mia was drawn to him immediately. Ethan watched it happen in real time, watched her conversation slowly start to change. "Ethan, isn't Noah amazing at public speaking? I could never do what he does." "Ethan, if a guy texts you at midnight saying he's hungry, does that mean anything?" "Ethan, what do guys like for birthday presents?" He smiled gently. "Depends on the guy." She tilted her head thoughtfully. "It's for Noah." That moment stuck in his chest like a splinter. She'd said it so casually, without thinking, as if Ethan was just her sounding board, as if he hadn't loved her quietly for over a decade. Later that night, he stared at his reflection in the mirror for a long time, tried to find something wrong with his face, his eyes, his voice, something that made him invisible to her. They started spending less time together after that. Mia became Noah's debate partner. She joined his projects, sat beside him in meetings, laughed at jokes Ethan never heard. But still, she'd come back sometimes, after fights, after long days, when she needed a friend. Ethan never said no. Even when she was crying over another fight with Noah, even when she used his shoulder again, but not out of love, even when he knew she'd go right back to the other guy in the morning. He kept being her safe place, even as she drifted further away. One day, while helping her move dorm rooms, he found a birthday card with Noah's name in swirling gold ink and a box of cufflinks she'd spent weeks picking out. Ethan held the card for a second too long. Mia took it gently from his hand. "You okay?" she asked, her voice soft. He nodded once, forcing a smile. "Happy for you." He meant it, and it hurt more than anything else. On the outside, Mia and Noah were flawless. Campus sweethearts with matching ambition, tailored smiles, and the confidence of people who had the world figured out. They won leadership roles, graced student magazines, and threw parties that people talked about for weeks. Together, they were the center of every room. Noah would walk into events with Mia on his arm, eyes sharp, posture perfect. Mia stood beside him, like she was born to shine. They matched in more ways than clothes or titles, both were intelligent, driven, and constantly chasing more. But behind the curtain, things cracked. Noah hated losing control. He wanted things his way. If Mia got too friendly with a classmate, he'd frown. If she stayed too long in the library without telling him, he'd show up and wait at the door. "I'm just worried," he'd say, brushing it off with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. Ethan watched from the sidelines. He noticed how Mia's laugh changed when Noah was around, tighter, more careful, how she started dressing differently, more polished, less comfortable. how she stopped meeting him for their quiet evening tea breaks on campus, the ones they used to have since freshman year. Still, Ethan said nothing. Once, he caught her crying outside the student center. Her makeup was smudged, and she was hugging her knees like a little girl. Ethan didn't ask what happened, he just sat beside her and offered a chocolate milk from the vending machine. She took it, leaned her head on his shoulder, and whispered, "Sometimes, I don't recognize myself anymore." He wanted to ask why she stayed, why she didn't walk away, but he already knew the answer. Some part of her still believed in the version of Noah she first met, and some part of her didn't want to fail. The breaking point came in their final year, when Noah received an offer to pursue grad school abroad. He expected Mia to go with him. But she had other plans. She had just co-founded a tech startup with classmates. The timing was perfect, the market in China was booming, and she wasn't ready to leave it all behind. Noah didn't take it well. "You're going to choose a gamble over us?" he snapped during one of their last fights. "It's not just a gamble, it's my dream," Mia shot back. "You're too proud for your own good, Mia. Can't you let me lead for once? I won't follow someone who keeps trying to clip my wings." The words were final, thrown like daggers. When Noah gave her an ultimatum, "Come with me or we're done," Mia stood frozen. But her silence was answer enough. That same night, Noah packed his bags. The next morning, he boarded his flight. No goodbye, no second chance. After he left, Mia unraveled. She stopped going to meetings, skipped meals, spent entire nights on the rooftop with a bottle of wine and nothing but the cold sky above her. It was Ethan who found her there one night, shivering and silent, staring up like she was searching for answers. "I don't know who I am without him," she whispered. "You were someone long before him," Ethan said. She didn't reply, just closed her eyes and leaned into him. Weeks passed. Ethan helped her pick herself up piece by piece. He sat beside her during investor meetings when she couldn't speak. He ran late-night coding sessions for the startup's back end. He helped her draft pitches, coached her through negotiations, made her laugh when she forgot how. Together, they built something from the ashes. It was slow, but it was real. On Mia's 25th birthday, Ethan organized a small dinner at her place, just close friends, soft music and candles that flickered gently against the walls. After the others left, Mia poured one last glass of wine. Her eyes were glassy, her cheeks pink from the alcohol. "I've always felt safest with you," she murmured. Ethan looked at her. For the first time, no words came out. He leaned in, slowly, gently, his lips brushed hers. She didn't move, she didn't pull away. Instead, she kissed him back. Her arms wrapped around his neck, and for a moment, it felt like the universe had shifted, like maybe, just maybe, he was enough now. Later that night, lying beside her in the quiet glow of the bedroom, she turned to him and whispered, "Let's be together." It was everything Ethan had wanted to hear. He didn't ask what she meant, didn't press her for words like love or forever. He clung to the moment, convinced it was real, but she never said she loved him, and he ignored the way she looked at her phone a little too long sometimes. He ignored how she still paused whenever someone mentioned Noah's name. He ignored the way she hesitated when they held hands in public, like something inside her hadn't settled. Because for Ethan, having her, even just like this, was better than losing her again. The first time Ethan saw Noah again, it was like a ghost walking through the halls of the company. Sharp suit, confident stride, that same disarming smile that once charmed everyone back in college, only now, it carried something heavier, a shade darker, as if years abroad had carved arrogance into his very bones. He leaned against the glass wall outside Mia's office, waiting like he belonged there. His voice was low, but Ethan heard it clearly when he passed by. "Mia, you said my name by mistake," Noah whispered, his tone like a blade sheathed in velvet. "You still love me, don't you?" Mia's lips parted, her eyes flickering for just a second. Ethan caught that hesitation, the way her hand trembled faintly before she clenched her fist. "No," she said firmly. But her gaze slid away, and Ethan saw something she couldn't hide. It wasn't conviction, it was fear, confusion, longing, emotions tangled together in a way that only Noah could unravel. Ethan stood frozen in the hallway, his chest tightening. The words were simple, but the silence between them screamed louder than anything. He turned and walked away, his footsteps echoing in the marble corridor, each one heavier than the last. That night, when Mia slipped into bed beside him, she was quieter than usual. She didn't curl into his arms. Instead, she turned her back, scrolling through her phone until long after the lights were out. The glow of the screen illuminated her face, shadows painting her features in sharp lines. Ethan lay there, staring at the ceiling, the distance between them vast, though they were only inches apart. It was then he realized, we share a bed, but it feels like an ocean lies between us. The days blurred together. Ethan buried himself in work, but no matter how many numbers he crunched, deals he closed, or projects he pushed forward, his mind always returned to the same image, Mia whispering Noah's name. One evening, when she fell asleep early on the couch, Ethan reached for her phone to check the time. He accidentally picked up the wrong one. Her lock screen was still the same, her birthday, a familiar detail, one that should have felt intimate, comforting. Instead, dread coiled in his stomach. He unlocked it without thinking, and there they were, photos. Not just one, dozens, saved not in her main gallery, but tucked into cloud storage. Ethan scrolled numbly. There was Mia on the beach, her hair blown by the wind, Noah's arm wrapped tightly around her waist. Mia holding a water gun, laughing under the sun, Noah's grin wide and careless. Their smiles were bright, unrestrained, as though the world belonged to them and no one else. Ethan's chest hollowed out. He had always thought she'd deleted them years ago. That she had moved on, chosen him. But she hadn't erased them, she'd hidden them, kept them safe like cherished treasures too painful to discard. And in the folder's title, as if to twist the knife deeper, was a single word. Noah. His hands trembled as he set the phone back down. He looked over at her sleeping figure, her breathing soft and even. For a moment, he almost wanted to wake her, to demand answers, to shout, to cry, to ask why she had dragged him into a love she never truly gave. But he didn't. Because deep down, he already knew the truth. She had never chosen him, not fully, not in her heart. So he stayed quiet. The silence became his shield. He swallowed the hurt, pressed it deep into the pit of his stomach, and pretended it wasn't there. In front of her, he smiled gently. He answered her questions. He carried on as though nothing had changed. But inside, the pain simmered. It was slow, corrosive, eating away at him in pieces he could no longer gather back. At night, when Mia pressed a kiss to the corner of his lips like always, he let her. But he no longer kissed back. When she curled into him, he wrapped his arm around her, but the warmth had already gone cold. He stared into the darkness, listening to her heartbeat against his chest, steady and unrelenting, while his own faltered. Every time she said, "Let's sleep," he closed his eyes, but he never slept. Days turned into weeks, and the quiet grew unbearable. Ethan began packing, one item at a time, a tie folded into the bottom drawer, a book slipped from the shelf into his bag, a few documents carried to the office and never brought back. He was careful, deliberate, so meticulous that Mia didn't notice, because this wasn't leaving in a rush, this wasn't running away, this was preparation. He had once thought love meant holding on no matter how hard it hurt. Now he understood it could also mean letting go when the weight became too heavy. Each shirt folded, each trinket pocketed, each small belonging removed was a silent goodbye. A goodbye Mia wouldn't hear until the day it was final. Until then, Ethan played his role, loyal, steady, the safe place she could always come back to. But in the quiet of night, when her back was turned and her phone screen lit her face, Ethan stared into the darkness and whispered words she would never hear. "I loved you more than you'll ever know, and you never loved me at all." The dinner was meant to be simple, a quiet evening with a few business partners, laughter shared over good wine, numbers discussed without pressure, and the kind of warmth that reassured Ethan they were building something solid. He had arranged everything carefully, Mia's favorite restaurant, their closest partners, a chance to strengthen ties. The night began smoothly, glasses clinked, deals were toasted, and the air carried the pleasant hum of satisfaction. Ethan, sitting at the head of the table, watched as the others praised Mia for her leadership. For once, he thought, maybe things would hold steady. Then the door burst open. Noah stormed in, the kind of presence that stole every breath in the room. He didn't hesitate to announce himself, he never did. His voice was sharp, cutting through the chatter like glass shattering against the floor. "You called him by my name, Mia." His eyes blazed, chest heaving. "Tell the truth. Tell everyone here, do you still love me?" The room froze, chopsticks hovered mid-air. The partners exchanged glances, shock and discomfort rippling like a silent wave. Ethan's stomach sank, but he kept his posture straight, his face expressionless. Mia's lips parted, but no sound came out. Her eyes darted toward Ethan, then back to Noah, her composure unraveling under the weight of two gazes. She froze, trembling faintly, and in that single moment of silence, Ethan understood. She wasn't going to defend him. Noah smirked, stepping forward, his voice louder now. See? She can't even deny it. She's with you, Ethan, but her heart is still mine. Ethan clenched his fists beneath the table, nails biting into his palm. Every word struck harder than the last, but he didn't flinch. He wouldn't give Noah the satisfaction. The partners looked at Mia expectantly, waiting for her to speak, to prove Noah wrong. But Mia's silence stretched too long, and when she finally spoke, it wasn't the defense Ethan needed. Her voice was soft, trembling, yet painfully clear. Ethan, I really tried. The world tilted. Ethan felt the ground beneath him shift, everything he had built, every quiet sacrifice, every moment of faith, crumbling in a heartbeat. Those 3 words gutted him more than any shouting, more than any betrayal. I really tried, as if loving him had been a task, as if choosing him had been a burden she shouldered, not a desire of her own. Ethan's chest burned, but his face remained still, his pride demanded silence, even as his heart shattered. Around them, the partners' expressions shifted from shock to disgust. One by one, they set their chopsticks down. Simon, the boldest of them, pushed back his chair with a sharp scrape against the floor. Ethan, I'll stand with you, he said, glaring at Noah. If this is the circus they're turning this into, I'm done. Another followed, then another. Soon, nearly all of them stood, murmuring their support for Ethan, their refusal to stay tethered to a sinking ship of pride and ghosts. Mia reached out, panic flashing across her face. Wait, please, let's talk about this, don't. But they were already walking out, their loyalty evident. Not to her, not to Noah, to Ethan, who had always carried the weight in silence. Ethan rose slowly, the scrape of his chair deliberate, steady. He looked at Mia one last time. Her face was pale, her eyes wide with regret and guilt, but not with love, not with the conviction that could save them, and that told him everything he needed to know. He straightened his jacket, his voice calm, almost too calm. It wasn't you who fired me, Mia. He paused, his gaze sweeping across the ruined dinner, the broken trust, the ashes of what once was. It was me who fired you. No one spoke. The room was suffocatingly quiet as Ethan walked past Noah without sparing him a glance, past Mia without letting his eyes linger. He left with quiet dignity, his footsteps steady, while behind him, the empire he had helped build collapsed in silence. Ethan didn't say much after walking out that night. He didn't go to war, he didn't make declarations, he just built, quietly, precisely, one brick at a time. Within a week, he had a workspace. Within 2, the first old partner called, then another. By the end of the month, 5 members of the original team were working under his new company name, Ilaris. It wasn't flashy, but it was solid, strategic, clean. Investors came naturally. The industry remembered who had run things behind the scenes while Mia and Noah played golden couple on stage. Ethan had been the spine, and now that spine was standing tall, without the weight of someone else's heart dragging it down. Meanwhile, NL Innovations, once Mia and Noah's pride, began to rot from the inside. Noah refused to adapt to the domestic market. He dismissed clients' preferences, mocked local vendors in boardrooms, and threw around his Western business sense like it was a crown. When one of the city's oldest partners offered feedback, Noah laughed in his face. "I'm not here to coddle your outdated thinking," he said. "You want real growth? Follow me, or step aside." They stepped aside. The exodus began slowly but built momentum like a landslide. Designers quit, operations stalled, clients pulled out, contracts dissolved, and in a matter of weeks, the cracks were visible even from outside. The glow around the company dimmed. Mia tried to hold it together, but she was running on frayed nerves. Investors began demanding answers. When one meeting turned tense, Noah slammed a glass onto the table, shouting at a senior director. "Maybe we should have let the dead weight go sooner. They were never visionaries anyway." A week later, Mia's mother landed in the hospital. It happened during one of Noah's tirades, an argument that spilled into the house they shared. Ethan didn't know all the details. He only heard from Simon that Mia's mom had tried to intervene when Noah's rage escalated. She'd been shoved aside in the process and hit her head on the floor. The call came late that night. Simon's voice was tight. "She's stable, but Mia, she looks like she hasn't slept in days." Ethan didn't hesitate. He didn't ask himself why. He just showed up. The hospital corridor smelled like antiseptic and cold food. Mia sat beside her mother's bed, face pale, back slouched, her once polished aura completely gone. Her eyes were ringed with exhaustion, her nails chipped, her hands trembling slightly as she spooned porridge into her mother's mouth. When she saw Ethan in the doorway, she froze. He didn't speak right away, just stepped in, set down the bouquet of warm chrysanthemums, and nodded at the nurse, who gave him a respectful glance. "How is she?" he asked, voice low. Mia blinked slowly. "Better, stable. She needs rest." Ethan nodded. He didn't sit. He didn't move closer. He just stood quietly, his presence neither warm nor cold. Mia looked up at him, and for a moment her lips parted like she wanted to say something. Apologize, maybe, or explain, but she didn't, because she knew. He wasn't here as her partner, not as her lover, not even as her friend. He was here out of respect, for the woman who once called him the son I never had. Not for Mia. He left without saying more. Days later, the news broke. Noah had taken Mia on a drive after another explosive argument. Witnesses said his shouting could be heard from inside the car as it sped down the mountain road. What happened next was unclear. Whether it was an accident or Noah lost control, no one knew. But when the car crashed through the guardrail and rolled into the ravine, it was Ethan's phone that buzzed first. He read the message in silence. "Mia survived. Noah's okay. She lost her leg." He didn't reply, just stood in the rain outside his office, staring at the city lights through the downpour, the world muffled by the roar of everything left unsaid. A few days later, he walked into the hospital room. Mia lay there, ghostly pale, her body thin and fragile beneath the layers of sterile sheets. One leg was gone beneath the blanket. Tubes ran along her arm, monitors beeped steadily, and for once, there was no makeup, no mask, just her, raw, hollowed out. She stared at the window, where sunlight pooled on the sill, as if trying to gather whatever warmth it had left to offer. When she turned her head and saw him, her eyes widened slightly. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. For a moment, she looked like she wanted to cry, or scream, or beg. But she didn't do any of that. Because just like Ethan once had, she already knew the answer. There was nothing to ask. Ethan didn't move closer, didn't sit. He looked at her, really looked, and realized the woman he once loved didn't exist anymore. The girl with spark in her laugh, who leaned on his back during summer sunsets, who teased him about marrying her someday, that version of Mia was gone. What was left was a woman shattered by her own choices. A heart split by hesitation, a body broken by someone she had once believed in more than him. He gave her a long, unreadable look, then turned to leave. She didn't call after him. She didn't need to. 1 year later, the city skyline shimmered against the velvet night. Towering glass buildings reflected the celebration within, an annual gala bathed in warm light, filled with champagne laughter, the crisp click of polished shoes against marble, and music that wrapped around the evening like silk. At the center of it all stood Ethan. Alaris had surpassed expectations. It had become more than a company, it had become a movement. A quiet rebellion built not on drama or revenge, but on consistency, strategy, and respect. Investors trusted him, clients stayed, employees called him the kind of leader who spoke with action, not ego. Glasses clinked around him, and Simon nudged his shoulder. Still not used to being the star of the room? Ethan gave a rare, soft smile. I'm used to building the room, not standing in it. A cheer went up across the hall as the team toasted to another milestone. At the center of the stage, Ethan took the mic for a short speech. No theatrics, just sincerity. Thank you for your belief, especially those who left safety to build something uncertain with me. This isn't my victory, it's ours. Let's keep going, let's stay honest, stay sharp, and grow without forgetting where we started. Applause thundered. He raised his glass once more, eyes scanning the room with quiet pride, but he didn't see her, he didn't need to, Because Mia wasn't in the room, she was on the outside, watching from a distance, just like he used to. Her fingers hovered over her phone, eyes fixed on Ethan's latest post on Weibo, a group photo of the team, their smiles real, their joy unforced. The caption was simple, Year 1, thank you for choosing this path with me. She had refreshed the post 5 times already, each time hoping, uselessly, that maybe there was some message hidden between the words. Some crack in his resolve, some part of him that still remembered what they once had. But there was nothing. Mia had tried to hold on after the accident, after the company imploded, after Noah disappeared into whatever pit of rage and regret he came from. But her name no longer opened doors, investors pulled out, clients walked. She couldn't save Nolan, a name she had once fused from Noah and her own, a symbol of her old life, her old pride. Now, that company belonged to Ethan. He had acquired it quietly, no headlines, no gloating, just signed papers, transferred shares, and closed books, a clean, final signature at the bottom of their story. Mia hadn't spoken to him since the hospital, not until tonight. The screen blinked. Outgoing call, Ethan. It rang once, twice, 3 times. No answer. She stared at the blinking line for a long time, phone pressed to her ear like it could somehow bridge the chasm between them. Then came the beep, the one that always hurt more than silence. She didn't leave a voicemail. The call log stared back at her, empty. Outside, snow drifted gently against her window, her crutches leaned against the wall. She sat wrapped in an oversized sweater, a single photo frame beside her bed, an old picture of her and Ethan during their university years. She had never taken it down, but tonight, it faced backward. Her phone buzzed again. A notification. This user has blocked you. That was it. No anger, no explanation, just a clean break. A final act of clarity from the man who had once waited in silence for her to see him, who had loved without demanding, who had swallowed every unspoken heartbreak for years and still stood beside her, until she looked elsewhere. She held the phone tightly, but the screen was black now. Her reflection stared back, eyes hollow, lips trembling, not from rage, from loss, true loss. The kind you can't argue with, the kind that doesn't come with closure, just the knowledge that you had something rare and you let it rot. Far above the city, in a room filled with warmth and loyalty, Ethan stood by the window, watching snow fall between skyscrapers. His reflection looked back at him, sharper now, cleaner. Simon walked up beside him, raising a glass. To year 2? Ethan clinked his own glass quietly. To peace. He took a slow sip, then spoke softly, almost to himself. A broken mirror can't be repaired. He let the words linger in the air for a beat longer. And some names, once spoken in the wrong mouth, become scars. He didn't look back. He didn't need to.